That was a report to which his predecessor responded. In my judgment, at that moment was the time when marijuana production and the whole issue of marijuana came to the forefront of the Mendocino County grand jury. No one lives in Mendocino County who is not affected economically or socially by marijuana. And that's true for both the private and the public sectors of the economy. The 2011 Mendocino Grand Jury marijuana report, where I was the foreman, again focused on a pot paradox or bud bingo. How's that for a title? And that was a report that was focusing on the county's new legal marijuana dispensaries. It was of particular interest to me as what later occurred was 3 medical dispensaries popped up in Mendocino, the town of Mendocino, where at that time I was a high school teacher. And if you've ever been to Mendocino, it's about 4 square blocks. And 4 square blocks, lots of high school students, and 3 new dispensaries. So that was obviously of public concern. The 15-16 grand jury report, I was the foreman again, focused favorably on our speaker's unique marijuana restitution program. So far as we know, he is the only one of the 58 county DAs to use Health and Safety Code 11470.2, burned in the brain, thank you Mr. Eister, in the disposition of marijuana cases in the county. This is also where I learned what a wobbler was. I got to listen to the most fascinating discussions at our dinner table last night on this topic. It's apparent now that the state should have retained sole control over the process, but if that had been the nature of that ballot measure, would it have passed? So here we are, dealing with this problem with over 58 counties, all kinds of cities and other jurisdictions, and we have no common way to address the issues. With counties and cities creating standalone ordinances, there's no uniformity, and now there's the brand new layer that the State Water Board has imposed that talks about water flows and stream degradation. So we have a brand new layer on top of what Mendocino County and other counties have already tried to establish. Ready or not, California kicks off recreational marijuana sales in 63 days on January 1st, 2018. As all of you know who have served on a jury, it forces you to make up your mind on an issue and to declare yourself about something with the issuance of your report. It would be impossible, in my judgment, in our county to have issued many of the reports that we have issued without the help of C. David Eister, and it's my pleasure and honor to introduce my esteemed colleague. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm standing between you and the road. So I'm going to try to keep this a little bit interesting. Can you hear me in the back?
Yes.
Okay, then we're not going to use that microphone because I move around a lot. I'm Dave Eister. I'm the elected district attorney in Mendocino County. I'm on the board of directors of the California District Attorneys Association, and I'm also considered in the CGJA area their resident expert on marijuana. You should have before you a packet that has maybe 2 slides. If you don't, they're in the back. We can get you some. Mine's a big one because I'm getting old. I can't see well. Yours are a little bit smaller so that you can actually get more on a one sheet. So there also should be a yellow document like this. Everyone got these?
No.
Okay, there's someone's getting some in the back there. We'll get them up here. So when I looked at the California Grand Juries Association, and by the way, thank you for inviting me. You can either thank Kathy Wiley or blame her later, depending on how this turns out. But I enjoy a group that gives awards to lawyers like I saw last night. So that was really nice. When I looked at your agenda, one thing I saw was that this was entitled the Marijuana, the California Conundrum. What? So I decided to figure out, first of all, what am I talking about? Because what's a conundrum? So you'll see the definitions on that second bottom item there. And it's like a riddle whose answer is or involves a pun. So I spent a few weeks trying to work on that pun. Didn't work for me. A question or problem having only a speculative answer. Okay, we're getting closer. And finally, the third definition was an intricate and difficult problem. Okay, that's marijuana. Okay, how many people call marijuana marijuana? How many people call marijuana cannabis? Where does the word cannabis come from?
The species of the plant.
That's right, sativa or indica, or a hybrid thereof. And either strain of marijuana has different properties. In one area, they'll be known as sour diesel, is a very popular name of marijuana. But marijuana is like alcohol. So when you're talking about alcohol, what's the range of alcohol? Basically going from cough syrup up to Everclear. And marijuana is the same thing. So when you're talking about marijuana, you're talking a full range of things. So as we talk about this today, I'm going to try to give you some input. If you think I'm going to give you the answers at the end, it's time to go because it's not going to happen, okay? So I'm from Mendocino County. Mendocino County is the foundation of the Emerald Triangle. The Emerald Triangle is Humboldt, Trinity, and Mendocino County. In that Emerald Triangle, there is a lot of marijuana growers. I mean, a lot. And so there's some areas of this state. I'm good friends with Gilbert Otero, who's the DA of Imperial County. They have cactus and sand, a few trees here and there. But what they have is they have smuggling happen through tunnels and the likes coming from Mexico into the United States. And we poo-poo their marijuana because it's just not good. So we say, okay, Mendocino County, the Emerald Triangle, much better, much better. But because of the Emerald Triangle, it has, for years, produced 60% of all marijuana grown in the United States. That's a lot. And it's grown for the demand of the United States, despite the fact that right now it's decriminalized to grow in California. Yet, they keep moving it to other states. So there was a point where the U.S. attorneys sent out letters to landlords saying, if you don't stop these people in your buildings, let's say dispensaries, we're going to seize your land. Does anyone remember that, when that happened? Why did that happen? Because the U.S. attorneys had a conference in the Midwest. And the Midwestern and Eastern U.S. attorneys said, hey, Bob, why does your marijuana keep showing up in our state? We need to have this stop. Because what Californians don't realize is that there's other states to the east of us that don't agree with us. So, it's that, what's that classic picture of the east looking west? And you don't see very far. Well, this is California looking east. You see a desert out there, maybe some snow mountains in Utah, and then there's nothing as far as Californians go. But what there is there's a market out there, in essence a black market. Marijuana, until just recently, was selling at about the rate of $800 a pound up to $1,800 a pound. Sounds like a lot. You know, think of a pound of anything. Think of a pound of spinach, okay? That's a lot of money for a pound of agricultural product. Well, that's down from when I was a young prosecutor, marijuana was selling for in the range of about $3,000 to $4,500 a pound. So what happened? Well, supply and demand. They upped the supply to meet the demand. And as they did that, the markets got a little bit more full, and so the price started dropping to the lament of the marijuana growers. So right now, there's a glut of marijuana on the market from last year. And the marijuana prices are now somewhere in the range of $400 a pound, down up to approximately $1,200 a pound. If you're really good, you can get up to $1,800 a pound now, or if you have a bad negotiator on the buyer's side of things. So at $400 a pound, we're losing people that want to spend the time growing marijuana. Now for some folks, you say, oh, that's a good thing. For other folks, they are not happy about this at all. I think Kathy was right.
Yay!
Was that Kathy?
She doesn't want me to talk about when she was wrong. But she was right, because Mendocino County used to have what? It used to have timber, used to have fishing. We still have fishing when it's allowed. The salmon supply has been depleted. The timber is not what it used to be. The jobs aren't there like they were in the old days. The mills are gone. And so what do we have? Number one industry is probably marijuana. Number two, probably wine grapes and wineries. By the way, Mendocino County wines are wonderful. Enjoy them. What's three? Tourism. Okay, our Mendocino coast and the lights, the redwoods. And what's four? Government. Me. So as you look at this, if you take away the marijuana element, you have another crash. And it's tough in a county where you have such crashes when you don't have the employment opportunities. You don't have a Silicon Valley. You don't have the ag that you see as you're looking around here, as you're going up through Santa Cruz. So that's what's driving some of this. So here I am. I'm a law enforcement guy, the chief law enforcement officer of Mendocino County, and I'm living in a strange world where I have to enforce the laws, and I have to make sure people aren't cheating, but a lot of folks don't like that. So we came up with a program, the 11470.2 program. I'm not going to get into it because that would be a whole nother presentation. But what that program did was returned about $7.5 million to our sheriff's office in 6 years. Now, there isn't many sheriff's offices in this state that wouldn't like to have $7.5 million in 6 years. Every one of them. In fact, I had sheriffs call me up saying, how come my DA isn't doing what you're doing? I said, yeah, you got to talk to the guy. You got to talk to the woman. So it was one of those things that our program was pretty successful. I have to say I was a little bit nervous when the grand jury said they were going to look into it. You know, what are they going to do here? But generally speaking, they hit almost all the points right on. So I appreciate them in that regard. And let me just stop. I'm before the Grand Jury Association. I've had a pretty good relationship with my grand jury. My grand jury normally invites me over. Sometimes they forget, but normally they invite me over at the start of a new session. I go over there with books. I carry with them a brand new penal code. I have a brand new California law and procedure so that they can put it in their library and they don't have to call me on some things. They can just look up. I normally refuse to sit down because I don't know what they'll do to me if I do. I walk around and I answer their questions, and they have long lists of questions they want to ask me about. And I have no clue why they're asking some of the questions, but I guess that's okay. You folks all know why, and I don't need to. Generally, I'll get called back maybe one time during the year, They may have a more specific group of questions on something, and now I'm starting to figure out what they're focusing on. But one thing you all have to remember is that district attorneys are your criminal law advisors, okay? County counsel advises you on civil stuff. Remember that the DA used to be the county counsel and the DA, and then they got broke apart. Why is that? The Board of Supervisors didn't want to have an attorney advising them that they couldn't control. So now they have county counsel, because county counsel is what? Appointed. District attorney's elected. You know, I don't work for the Board of Supervisors, I work for the voters. So, understanding that, the DA is a pretty good source because he's not beholden to the county government, and I have investigators. I have peace officers that work for me, and so as you're out there working on things, if they head towards the criminal arena, ask the DA if they can supply you an investigator or help you understand what evidence to gather and the likes. DAs tend to be very helpful in that regard. So let's talk about enforcement of marijuana in Mendocino County. We have a big 5 enforcement focus. And every county should have this, they just haven't said these words. Number 1 is we always prosecute people, and we're going to do it yesterday, today, and we'll do it tomorrow, is if you're growing marijuana on public lands. Anyone have a problem with that?
Nope.
Of course not. Okay, number 2 is trespass grows. So you have a ranch, and your ranch is a beautiful, pristine ranch, and next thing you know, some interlopers come in, growing marijuana on your land, dirtying it up, putting PVC pipe all over, taking the springs and putting it into spring boxes and feeding these thirsty marijuana plants. We go after trespass growers. By the way, how thirsty is marijuana? On a study that was done recently by Fish and Wildlife on the North Coast, average use of water by a marijuana plant, outdoor grown, 6 gallons a day. So, when next time you see the numbers where they say, oh, we just found a 3,000 plant garden, you go, let's do that math really quick, and you can figure out why our streams, why our rivers are not supporting the fish that we all really like to have there. Now, the third priority we have is we enforce people that are stealing resources, okay? So stealing resources means you're taking electricity, water, whatever it happens to be. It's slightly different. The land is what we call a trespass grow. The stealing of resources is a little bit different. We also prosecute resource degradation. So what do some of these guerrilla grows? Guerrilla grow is often our term for these trespass grower. A guerrilla grower will many times go in, they'll line a stream bed with plastic, they'll block up the water there. What do they do then? They pour in their chemicals and they stir them in the stream, and then they pump it out to their marijuana, and when the first storm comes through, it blows it out, and where's all those chemicals go? Downstream. And what kind of chemicals? Well, if it's a Mexican grow, which we see a lot of, they're banned. We've had DDT found in grow sites. Most of the stuff, I can't even read the labels, but you know, when you see the skull and the crossbones, it says Pellegro on it, you kind of know, oh, that's bad. So that's the 4th. And now the 5th is what we call pure profiteers. Okay, the people are in it not for the medical marijuana, not for because they like to sit around and watch comedians and smoke dope. They want it nothing but the profit of making marijuana and selling in the market. Pure profiteers. Now, January of 2018 is when commercial marijuana can be legal if it's licensed. So, of the 5 enforcement priorities that we have, the only one that's affected by the changes in law is what? Pure profiteers. So what's our new priority? Unlicensed pure profiteers, okay? Because to do this legal, what are you going to, you're going to need a couple things to be legal in California as of January 2018, okay? What are you going to need? You're going to need to apply to your local government, and so fees and everything goes there. You're going to have to fit into what the local government decides is necessary. So let's say you're on a place that's not, your residence isn't properly permitted and everything. You've got to fix all that stuff. Then you're going to have, once you get your license from the local government, and I say local government because I think the number is, it's in here and we're going to get back into this in a second, but I think the number is that in the state of California, there's 583 jurisdictions. So 583 means we got 58 counties, and then beyond the 58 counties, we have then the city governments and the ones that can make decisions too. So